Hello there. My name is Niiamah Ashong, and welcome to the Outliers Edge podcast, where we champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity by helping them leverage what makes them different to make their biggest difference in the world. All right, I tried it. I tried to just like deliver the opening kind of straight and everything, but
I
like,
like it.
yeah, like so. What happens today? I'm joined on the podcast with the outlier Colby Morris. Colby is really good to be in space with you. Um, what happens here when I start up a podcast conversation is that like I don't know what it is, but it's like something that happens once I hit record that I almost like need to just like I just start something comes out of me. And normally
That's
it's
awesome.
like I've sung, I've danced, I've done all this stuff. I'm just like, but you know what I haven't done? Just delivered. Just said the thing. But I think part of this all is really in a space of creating more room to play, creating more room to explore, creating more room to know what is real. And if I'm being honest, at my core is like this irreverent play. I have a 3-year-old right now, and like when
Yeah.
he plays, he just plays. Like he's not trying to cause problems. He's not trying
Hmm.
to do it. He's just playing. And I think that at the core of everything I do, it comes down to like, how can we just play more? You
I
know?
like it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We'll dive into your outlier journey here today and some of the things that you see differently and how you support people out in the world in your own different way. And one of the things that's coming for me is like uh, like there's no model for what it is that I want to do. I've seen different bits and pieces out there, but there's no actual model. It's not something that's like I want to replicate exactly that. And so these elements here, there's like micro moments of testing, pushing my own boundary, seeing did that feel good? Did I feel awkward? Well, if I can do this in this own space, could I do it in someone else's space? So on and so forth. And just continue to play out. So if you're good with it, Colby, I know you're a master of leadership, so I'd like to like create the space for us to just continue to find ways to play throughout our conversation. Does that work for you?
Sounds great.
All right, so let's do this here. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of speak yourself into the room, both personally and professionally. If you're good with it, do you mind if I speak you in first?
Sure.
Okay, so this is who you've been to me so far, Colby. I don't know what I'm going to say, but I do know I'm going to say something. So Kobe, what I think about like what I get about you and the impact that you've had on me is that like you actually do like represent like a high level of warmth and presence and like honestly like just like strong presence, I think is really what's coming through here, right? And the reason I say you represent that here is that because when I think about you, I think about the conversations we've had and the level of like you're in like the intensity that comes through on it, the experience that couples with it, but also just like the way I just feel like open arms. I don't know how to describe it, but I
Yeah.
feel embraced in you and what it is that you say and what it is that you believe in. I feel embraced in the way that I can show up as a leader and how I am already showing up. And there's this component of like it's all good. We're here to do the work, but it's all good. And
Yeah.
maybe it's embrace, maybe there's a level of security that comes along with it, but like in very short order, we're still getting to know each other. But there's this yeah, that has that feel to it. I just wanted to say thank you for being you. Thank you for that experience that you've given me overall. And I'm looking forward to both expanding that and getting to find out more about you and various through various modalities of you as well. So thanks.
Wow. That's awesome. I don't know what to follow up with, man. That
Yeah.
was, yeah, that you got me here. You got me here.
Well, I think it's a cool place for us to go. Let's stay with here, right? And see if we can have a conversation that continues to come out from that place. Because
Yeah.
otherwise I get too much in my head.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And so like, if you had to share from your heart here, like who is Colby Morris?
Man, I've asked myself that probably too many times in my lifetime. I'm a people-centered person. I know I'm an extrovert, but it's beyond that. Like I want to see people succeed. I want to see people um, be the most they can be. And I want to be one of those people that if I can help them get there, if I can be in that vehicle, if I can be a vehicle to help them get there, that that's who I want to be. And if it's my kids, if it's my wife, if it's coworkers, if it's employees, I want to try to help people be who they're supposed to be. Not out of who I vision they need to be. You know, although I say that, and at the same time, I believe there's people who come into your life to call things out of you. Hey, I see this in you, and I really think that's something amazing, and we can you can use that or whatever. But there's also the part that they need to be uniquely them, and if I can help them maximize that, then man, my day, my life is made.
I really resonated with what you're saying here. You said something that I've never heard put in this language, and but it caught me. You said something along the lines of help them the most be the most they can be, right? And most of the times when I hear this, I'll say things like I'll help them be all that they can be, and most of the time that I also hear it's usually like help them be the best they can be. And there's been something about like the best they can be that's thrown me off, right? Like I've been in high performing environments, high performing teams, and like we just want you to bring your best self, be your best you, so on and so forth. And what I have experienced from that is that like it's a tremendous amount of pressure, honestly,
Exactly.
to like, yeah, pressure and like the smallest sliver. I'm like, the best of you is what, the 1% of you. So you're literally saying in a place where we're like, let's be inclusive, bring let's get all this stuff here. But by the way, I only want that 1% of you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And there's something so much more freeing and inviting with be the most. I'm like, oh, the most of me, like even more of me, like it's just a completely different way of thinking about it. I'd be curious about your reflection on it. Like it was really beautiful to hear. So any thoughts on that in that distinction?
Yeah. You think about, say you're with your kids or you're with your wife and you want to be fully present, right? You want to be as much as you possibly can be present in that moment. But if I put the pressure on myself, say I have to be the best I possibly can be in this moment when I'm with them, I'm gonna be exhausted. Like I can't as a human always just be the best in those moments. I have to be the most. I have to give them the most of me in those moments. And if you use the term best, then there's inherently a measurement implied. Like I'm good, better, best. And I only have to give the best when I'm with my wife, when I'm with my kids, when I'm with this person. They only want that, like you said, that sliver of me. And like, no, you get all of me. All of me is better than the best of me for this infinite amount of, finite amount of time. I want to give all of me, not just, the pressure of trying to give you that little piece. Does that make sense?
I mean, you're speaking to my soul right here. You're speaking to my soul right now. So Colby, like what I like to do is give people a chance to get to know you professionally. There's like, especially in our conversations, we're going to be focusing on you, how you show up, so on and so forth. And I want to give people a chance to understand, like the how do I say it, like the game that you play out in the world, and then still choose to be people centric, you know. So can you tell us a little bit about, let's start off here. I'll break it down in a couple. I usually give a really big question. Let me break it down in a smaller question, which is like, tell us more about like the work you are doing now.
Okay. So for the most part, I am what's called a fractional COO. So I come in, help usually entrepreneurs, startups, those types of people who either can't afford a COO or maybe they're in between COOs and they need somebody to come in and kind of fill that gap. And so my job is to come in and kind of figure out what they're trying to accomplish, what ultimately their business or their goal is, and work with them to create not just operations, but to create the team and work with the people and develop them in order to be, again, people centric, because the people are the ones that deliver the results. So that's who I am. I come in and help them put those processes and people in the right place. You know, the old book said, you know, get the right people on the bus and then get them on the right seats on the bus. That's what who I am, to come in and maximize that and help these entrepreneurs' dreams come true, right? Or the startup, you know, if they have uh, you know, some amazing mission that they're trying to accomplish, I want to be a part of that, and part of that's the people.
So let's talk a little bit here. I just realized that here that I've been off camera here, so
That's
hi again.
okay.
But let's talk a little bit here about the component of actually getting to this place, right? So I'm going to start off first with like, tell me a little bit about like your history, your professional history before you became a fractional COO. Or is that where your thing started? And then I'll let you spend as much time as possible playing in the world of a people-centric leader.
All right. So I always say I'm kind of business agnostic. I've played in every field I think there is to do. You know, straight out of college, high school teacher and coach, learning how to motivate. Then I got into healthcare, started learning about leadership. Uh, Spent more time in healthcare than retail, and just kind of playing all over the place, trying to figure out what it was that made businesses successful, teams successful, and it came down to leadership. And so I've spent majority of my time in those industries really working to develop leadership teams to then create amazing businesses. So um, how did I get in this fractional position? It was a combination of the world in 2020 as we knew it, when certain businesses weren't allowed to be open. And that shut down the retail business that I was the chief operating officer for after we had been closed for several months. And it kind of forced us to kind of reinvent. And after doing a few contract, you know, I guess you call them gigs, right? Some contract positions, I thought, you know, I kind of like this. I like going in and helping this company, helping this entrepreneur, and you know, setting these things up. There's got to be somebody who does that. And you know, all the friends were like, just be a consultant. I'm like, everybody's a consultant these days. I want something more specific, and just kind of working through what it is I do. I finally landed on this whole fractional COO thing, and it's just kind of taking off. Like it's what people needed or are needing right now, and it's kind of filled that space, that gap in what people are trying to accomplish. And I love it. I love the people I come in contact with. I love some of the missions that we're helping fulfill. So it's 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 great. Great's probably not the best word, but I'm at a loss.
But
I love doing it.
I like that. Like, I think great is wonderful because of like how simple it is. Like, you can see it, you can hear it. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you don't even need to sugarcoat it. You're like, it is great. And just so you know, Colby, you've had some experience with me, but like, what I tend to do is I'll reflect. I'll let you know about what I'm hearing here and like unpack it with you in real time if you're good
Hmm.
with that work.
Yeah.
Um, some things here and outliers. I want you to pick up on this here. Uh, you, Colby, have a way of owning yourself and what you do that I think is really, really admirable and masterful. So I'll bring out two examples. One of them is that you talked about being business agnostic. I don't know why, for some reason, my, my mouth doesn't want to say that. I'm like, well, that was interesting, but business agnostic. And what I get from like when you said that to here, what I heard was, oh, this person owns. Like he owns who he is. He owns this element. Outliers. How many of us go out and say, well, I've done a lot of different things. I've had a very varied journey. Like they find ways to kind of apologize for the fact that their skill set is applicable to many different components, right?
Right.
But you lead with that. Like that's the way that you entered the conversation. Tell me about yourself. Well, I've been business agnostic, you know? And it's like, and like when I hear it from that perspective, I'm like, oh, this person can do anything, right? It feels like a
Yeah.
superpower because you chose to own it as a superpower, And then we're going to go also on the thing with the fractional COO, right? It came out, you're like, I'm a fractional COO. I honestly never heard of a fractional COO before like earlier this year. you
Right.
know, like, or fractional anything. And now I'm like, oh, I get that. Like you can have fractional things, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
that was a newer term to me, right? But you owned it. You came right in and like, someone's like, well, just call yourself a consultant. It's easy. It's a box we can put you into very simply and so forth. And then you did something that I also found very interesting here, which is it's all like, the way that I play is I play in the space of like high performance and mastery, right? And so in that space, nuances are one of the key determinants, right? To be able to understand the nuance and the distinctions there. It might just be words. So you let me know if you're like, dude, you just totally looked into this too much. Um, but you said something here. You said everyone's a consultant these days. I'm looking for something more specific, right? And I think in my head, I was hearing you say I'm looking for something different or some other way to like novel, whatever it is. But it wasn't like what I got from that was that it wasn't about being great for the market. It was about something that you could own. You're like, yes, I could do consulting, but there's something more specific to what I bring to the table or what I am looking for that I want to make sure I spend the time finding it. And I'm glad you found a good match with the market so that people can find you and bring you on, because that means that some amazing missions are being brought to life. But like I'm really getting a strong sense of ownership for you and the way that you navigate things. What is your like how I'll be curious about your reflections back on that there. And then also just about like how that has impacted both your career and the way that you make your impact now.
So you're dead on. Like I wanted to find something that was very um purposefully worded to fit with what I wanted to do. Um, you can tell from the white and the beard, I have a little bit of experience. And you know, I, you're right. I wanted to offer something that was very specific to these people. When they sit there and they go, man, we're missing this piece. You know, we need a COO. We need a director of operation, whatever it is. They all different titles. But man, I can't afford that. Or man, what are our options? You know, or I just lost this person. They were amazing, and what do I do? I wanted to be very intentional about the seat that I will fill, the seat I will hold for that company, for that entrepreneur. And what I do well is that COO role. I'm just saying I'm probably not your forever guy, or I'm your transition person. I'm the one that's going to help you bridge that gap and be very intentional with them about that role. So yeah, I think you were right on in that I do own that because I want to be clear. You know, Brene Brown says clear is kind, unclear is unkind, right? So I want to be very real, very clear with the people that I work with that this is who I am.
So I like where this is going here. Can you share a time where you were pursuing something and you didn't take the time to be clear, or you chose not to be clear, and some of the aftermath, or maybe aftermath is a little bit too directional, and so just what happened afterwards?
Man, early in my leadership career, I figured out I didn't communicate well. Um, we had a project at at a hospital where I worked, and I thought I was pretty clear that we were going to do this specific project and in this amount of time. But it turns out that because I did not really over communicate, which by the way, I don't believe there's any such thing as over communicating. Because I wasn't consistent in my communication and clear in that communication, I had teams that were going three different directions. And because they were going three different directions, resources went one way, money went the other, and it was just a massive failure. It was the probably one of the most embarrassing moments I'd had in my professional career. And when I start going through the five whys, why did this happen? Okay, but why? But why? Man, it came down to I did not communicate it well, and I didn't communicate clearly. I didn't communicate consistently, and it was on me. You know, all that egg deservedly right on my face. And while it didn't cost me my job, I was able to to recover. But it's one of those things. man, it'll leave a lasting impression on you the rest of your life that you're going to be clear. You are going to be over communicative. You're going to make sure everybody's on the same page and check for understanding because I don't ever want to live that again.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that in because it's that as you're talking, I'm thinking about outliers here, and a lot of us are visionary leaders. There's a lot of different outliers and the way
Yeah.
that we show up, but a lot of us are visionary leaders, and I'll even stop talking about everyone else. I'll tell you selfishly, I'm a visionary leader. Like when I feel like when I'm at my most, it is there, you know. And a challenge I run into is communicating the vision, right? I'm curious for you how, like, because it feels like after that moment, you took it upon yourself to like learn how to communicate here. And I'll share this story. I went to an transformational experience. I got a chance to lead a group of people through a game. We were playing a game, and I had like a top-notch professional on my team, and we had to just go and like do a specific function as part of the game. And every round that the that will come up that we would get, that person would come and ask me like, "What's the next thing? What should I do here?" And it would like it involved math, right?
Right.
And I'm like, you were an accountant or something like that. Like you can do this. Like where? What am I missing? What am I missing that I've taken someone who is so good at what you do that can fly and excel in life and business so well, but like in this environment, my leadership has brought you to a place where you don't like something is missing that you can't connect the dots, so you don't feel empowered to just go with it. I remember thinking that about that a lot and coming out of that game experience and realizing that like I can see it and I don't know what other people can and cannot see because it's so easy for me to see. And my takeaway was I need to learn how to communicate a whole of like, and I had thought over communicating was saying it a whole lot of times, but now I'm like stepping into like how many different ways can I communicate it? How many ways can I like how can I get them? How can I almost communicate in a way that in communicating they're doing it? I don't know.
Right.
Like so
Yeah.
I am deeply curious about this one component, especially as a visionary leader around like building the skill sets and bridging the gaps. Are there things that you found that have worked better than other things along the way in order to get communication across? Like, you just have me like deeply interested in like, how do you do it? Uh,
So I work with a lot of visionary leaders. And generally they have some great ideas, and if they say it once, it's gospel, and everyone should just go and go and do right. And for me, my job is ask some questions. Let's get some clarity around exactly what you're wanting to do. um, Usually it's an idea on top of an idea we're already working on. So are we talking about pivoting? Are we talking about adding this on? Like, let's get some clarification because we only have so many resources, so many people, so much time, right? So my job is dig in and make sure uh, that I'm checking for understanding, that I
this is the
can
second
I
time you
can
said checking for understanding. So now, since it's come up twice, I'm like, how would you define that?
yeah. So checking for understanding, in the therapist world, they call that mirroring, right? So I would say, okay, what I hear you saying is that you want to stop doing project A, focus on project B, and we'll pick up project A down the line. And if that person says, no, 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 we got to keep doing project A. And let's go, okay, let's talk about what that really entails. What does that really mean? But if I hadn't checked for project, for understanding, we would have stopped project A, and that's not what he wanted at all. So, I'm going to mirror back what I'm hearing you say. So I'm going to make sure that I understand what you're saying. And when I then go to my team and say, okay, here's what we're doing, and I give that communication, now I'm going to say, now tell me what you understand. I'm gonna check for understanding. You tell me what you just heard me say. What are the next steps? And I check for understanding that way. So we're not going to be on a different page because you told me and I heard you say what I said.
this is like as you say it, I can feel something shifting inside of me because like I have my team. It's a small team right now, and I find myself like asking, like doing something similar to what you say in terms of checking for understanding. It's like and a part of me has actually wondered if I was being like overbearing as a leader, or like, almost like not patronizing, but not like seeing, like giving the person their own space. But I'm like, to me, it's a clear channel. Like, hey, we've done this enough where I thought you and I were on the same page. You thought you and I were on the same page. I got a message back, said, understood, clear, got it.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
what came back was the complete opposite of what I thought was going to be happening.
Yeah.
So as you say that, there's it's interesting hearing you say it, because I think there's like a component of it's like, okay, this is actually a process of that's a part of leadership, this element of checking for understanding and the two-way street around it, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, yeah. That's all right, go ahead. There's something that comes up here where I think about, like, I see what's happening with how you show up as a leader, and I think even like in this conversation, I feel it. It's also really fun too. You just gave me another way to describe what it is that I do a lot, because I call it, I reflect back a lot. But it's like I'm constantly checking. I realize that, like, as we're talking, like I'm always looking for feedback. Like, are we aligned? Is this happening? Am I getting you right? I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
what I think I'm hearing, and it's not coming from a place of like I'm not sure, and so I'm afraid. It's more like I just really want to play. I just really want us to be able to build this
Yeah.
thing. And if we're going off in different directions, then we both have a soccer ball, but one's playing European football and one's playing soccer. And who knows? Who knows? All right. So let me ask you here. When you look at like the bigger challenges that you face or the people that you serve face, right? What would you say are like the top three that come to mind for you?
The top three people that I face, or
The
rephrase what you're saying.
top three challenges that you face
Oh,
yeah,
uh,
or the top things that you get called in, like, yeah,
yeah. Number one is turnover.
yeah,
People, they can't understand why they can't keep people. We hired the brightest and the best, and they all leave. We don't know what's going on. That's number one. Number two, we thought we had this great process. Process isn't working. What? Can you come help us figure out this operation? Something's not working. It's stuck. And then three, it's always about communication. I mean, always about communication. We're not on the same page. We're not hitting the right. Feel like I've got this mission and vision, right? But it's just hanging on the walls. It's not walking in the halls. And how do I get that translated and fix the culture within this organization, so that we're all talking the same language, that we have the right people on the bus. How do I communicate all that? It's too big for one person. And you're right, but uh, those are the three things, man, that it's always probably one of those three.
it seems like I think about this a lot because it's I approach this from the standpoint of like, all right, I want to do something different, right? And you get to the point where it's like it really does all like come down to who you do it with, and how that all lines up here.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of the time with leaders overall. Like how let's take a step out of like the day to day now, out of the fractional component of it all.
Okay.
Because I know that you have like a much larger mission on top of that. Tell me a little bit more about your larger overarching vision.
Kind of comes back to the intro. It's about people. It's about having the biggest impact on people that I can. Um, and for me, developing great leaders is the single biggest way to impact the most people. Because I mean, everybody that works a W-2 job, who do they spend most of their time with? Everybody at work, 8 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week, something like that. And you're spending 48 hours, sometimes 60 hours a week with the people you work with. They're going to have an impact on your life. And if I can create or help develop leaders and leadership cultures within an organization, that impacts those people, that impacts their family, that impacts how they live life. Man, to me, that's the ultimate goal is to impact as many people as you can by transforming how they lead.
So the question that comes to me is like, all right, in my mind, Colby, you had like you've been having like your professional career, you're in real retail, you're a COO there, 2020 happened, needed some reimagining, now a fractional COO. Like, what brought you to the place of saying like, okay, I actually need to go and step up like this message to another thing? Because I found you through like your podcast, right? And I look at opportunities when people like say like, all right, I'm not just gonna, this is more than just like the work that I do. It's something that like I actually elevate into something larger. So I'd love to talk about like that transition for you to like to say, and maybe it wasn't a transition. Maybe you're always like, I was doing white papers and all this stuff for a long time, and it just happened to be another form of getting out into the world. But I'm curious about like that portion of like how you show up in the world. Is that question clear?
I think so. And if I answer incorrectly, let me know.
There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's in a sense. Yeah.
um, you know, I think when I realized, you know, however many years ago it was that what leadership did and how I was showing up as a leader, how I was showing up as a husband, how I was showing up as a dad, where I was and wasn't leading, probably had the biggest impact on me. And I realized that a lot had to change. And this is just being real and vulnerable. I realized that I wasn't real good at or being real successful at it. I wasn't leading well at home. I wasn't leading well at work, and I needed to do it differently. And there had to be people out there that knew how to do it. And so I just really started, taking as much of it in as I could, whether it's a podcast, audio book, a book, or whatever. I wanted to get better at it. I wanted to show up better as a husband, as a dad, as a leader at work, but I couldn't do it by myself. And so it kind of became almost, I hate to use the word obsession, but that's probably the closest word I can come up with, that I was obsessed with trying to get better. And it's kind of just become a part of who I am now. Yeah, I have the podcast, and that's probably a passion project as much as anything else. Like I need to help leaders get better, and I can help the ones that hire me to do it. But what about the ones that don't have all the resources, the ones that can't hire me or whatever? If I can give them some tools to get better faster, okay, you know, cool. I was one of those. I can be one of those people that John Maxwell was to me, or whoever else I was listening to back then. I just want to impact the people, man. I want some dad out there to be like, you know what, this would work at home, you know, or you know what, this person I'm leading at work, I'm not doing it well. They probably don't even like me. And how does he go home at night when he has to work with me all day and I'm treating him like this and he doesn't like me? Is he going home and being everything he can be? Am I impacting this guy's family too? And man, if I can fix all that and kind of create this, circle of life, then that's what I'm shooting for.
The elements of like, thank you for getting real with it, firstly. It's interesting because in you getting real, like it also created space for me to get real, right? And to look at it. And I know I've said things, I'm like, I'm just not sure I'm doing it right, and like I like so Kobe, I don't know, like I didn't mention this to you. So when I first started my career, I got into leadership stuff very early. Like Lead and Change was one of like the first books I actually remember like buying, you know.
Yeah.
And but like I was like an analyst, so like
Yeah.
I'm like not in a position. Like I created opportunities to lead, and I got involved in areas where I was put in leadership positions. But what was interesting was and yeah, I'll talk to you about this. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Felt like a really great leader until things got hard, right? Until I looked around and I said, my business isn't working as well as I thought it was. I've been putting a lot into taking people wherever they are, and I'm like, I can develop them into whatever I need. Like we
Yeah.
could all do this stuff here, and I'm like, I am working in this environment where I don't know what the end result is. I'm still trying to figure out what will actually work. And I'm hoping that that the person that I'm with will be there and be able to do it all. And, you know, and I don't know the date to it, but I do know that like when I think of myself, and this is something I haven't said out loud, but when I think of myself as a leader, um, I just think I was a better leader before, and something came and became more results oriented. Like we just need to get the revenue. We need to just deliver. Where's this at? Where at the same and like as I share this out loud, I can feel like my reluctance to say it, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that out in the world, and yet that is who I am in this current moment. Um, what's come has not been better results. The results have not just come from focusing on the results,
Right.
and the experience itself has become less. It's just become less. It's probably that, like, we talked about like be the most of all you are, but like it just feels like it's
Yeah.
like you're like something's missing there. So I'll ask this question from my side of it. Like, this has now come from someone who believes in what you are saying, has lived it, and is now coming into a place where things got hard and they've crunched. It's almost like my coping mechanism, or like, it's like stress. Let's just get it done,
Right.
and then we'll come
Yeah.
back to it all, come back to the party. Um, I would even say, what would you say to other people? What would you say to me based on this? Or what questions would you like ask me based on this here, based on what I'm saying? That would like, because there's something in what you're saying. I'm like, I think that it is. I think that I don't know what I think. I just felt important to bring it to
Yeah.
to the conversation, Colby. You good with that?
Yeah. So first thing before I ask you a question, I'd tell you, there's an old quote about I'll try to not to mess it up, but it's experience is the toughest teacher. She gives the test first and the lesson later, right?
Mm,
So as you're living life, you're learning as you go. You're doing life school as you live it, right? And the the part most leaders really struggle with when they reach this section uh, is trying to find grace for themselves. So my question for you would be: are you giving yourself the grace in these moments that you would give someone else, or are you heaping the negative self, the negative talk, and those kind of things on yourself, whereas if it were someone else, you'd be giving them the grace and the positive reinforcement?
Are you down to play, Colby? Can we
Absolutely.
keep it going? Like usually I'll do like a part two of all this stuff, but we're already here. If you forget, we're just gonna
Yeah.
run with it. The two things that come up that I have two parts of the answer to it. The reality is probably not, right? And with this first part of it, it feels like it's tied to like, am I given the grace that I would have given back when I felt like I was an enlightened leader? Definitely not. Am I
Right.
given the grace that I think I'm giving the grace to other people with other right now? Potentially. Like
Yeah.
if I've narrowed that in. So that's one. There was something else that you brought up that really felt important to say. Right now, it's not coming back to me. Um, but there's yeah, that's let me answer the question that way right now. Which is like, I want to give the grace.
Yeah.
I feel it. It's almost like it's like the vision of it's almost like it's like it feels worse sometimes to have felt like, oh, I had it and I lost it,
Yeah.
than not, But yeah, I think in terms of giving myself the capacity to be more gracious with myself, that I definitely know I have.
Yeah.
Have I utilized that? Have I gone to my graciousness tank and said I'll just take a cup
Yeah.
of that? Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. Yeah, but thanks for bringing that to my awareness right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where, when I work with a lot of the entrepreneurs, man, they've reached a point where they're kind of a victim of their own success. And I use that phrase hesitantly, but they've reached a point where, the business has grown, things have grown, and they don't, what do I do next? You know, I hadn't planned on growing it like this. I guess maybe in the back of my mind, I thought it was going to grow, but here I am, and I don't know what to do. Right? They don't give themselves that grace. They just see it as this paradox where success is now failure. And you're like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Look at your business. Look at what's happening. This, where you are is not failure. It's a struggle that's come with success. The same thinking that got you there is not going to get you beyond that. You're going to have to change some things. You're going to have to modify some strategies in the way you think, and you're going to have to bring in some people that do things differently and better than you. But your success is not a failure. And man, that is a hard concept for some people to grasp because they're so used to doing everything themselves that if I have to ask for help, um, then I'm failing. Like, no, that's when you're starting to be successful. Like,
Mm.
be real, be vulnerable, and say, you know what? This thing's bigger than me now. Thank God this thing's bigger than me now. Let's do something different. Let's grow. Let's make it happen and bring the right people on the bus. But don't look at it in the negative aspect.
Sure. Thank you. I'm glad I brought in that question, like, because uh, I like to try and keep this real, and along the way, because it's the real challenges, and it's interesting for me because I tend to think about things on the other way. Like I'm like, let's do it all together, and now this is the
Yeah.
first time, like, oh, becoming an entrepreneur, I don't have the team that like I can just walk into a big four consulting company and they've already picked like such a great group of people and they've trained them
Right.
in their system, or in a big tech place in New York City where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'm doing it. It's now on me. And I really have a lot of respect for organizations now that actually get to that point, because it's not there's a lot that's involved in it. So um thank you. This honestly, thank you.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to bring us here to a close by asking one more question. This is along the operations side of things and around the visionary leadership element. The outliers who listen to this here, they're off doing their own thing. They're creating a path where a path hadn't been before. They are look there is no model for what it is
Right.
that they're trying to create, right? And a lot of like they come from different backgrounds. A lot of them right now are like solopreneurs, or like have a small business, right? I won't say
Hmm.
very small, but they have like small business where it's like a tight team and thing. Um, and I get curious here. One of the challenges we come into a lot is like I use the word model, like building a business model, building a leadership model, building a team or a culture model that works for them. So I'd be kind of curious how like you either walk through it or how you've navigated it yourself, in terms of like actually building out a model that
That doesn't
blends
exist.
exactly right, without, but at the same time not having to start from complete scratch. Like that element of being like, let's build a model that doesn't exist, but like knowing that the fundamentals are sound, and we're gonna rock this until we start to see the results we're looking for. What are your
Right.
thoughts on it?
So building a model that doesn't exist is probably one of the toughest things that's out there, but it's what happens every day, right? Like these solopreneurs, entrepreneurs have this idea, this business that's never existed, and they're just going to make it happen. And man, my my utmost respect for people who think that way. Um, so how do you build the model? I think there's some fundamentals that you have to have on board when you start this process. Um, you need a finance person. It could be your bookkeeper, it could be a controller, whatever, but you need a finance person. because if you don't, and you're just going off that Excel spreadsheet, you're too busy. You need somebody that's going to help you stay on top of it. And I think a ton of businesses that got started struggled more than they had to if they just would have hired somebody, a bookkeeper or something to keep things straight, because it's the last thing on your mind. You're working, you're wearing 18 different hats, and bookkeeper is not your strength. And so they lose that. So I bring the finance person, and I'm not talking about FP&A. I'm just talking bookkeeper, controller type person, right? Next one is your ops person, and that ops person generally has knowledge of marketing and some type of like human resource function. They're good at operations, but they have a background in those things, because if you're in that kind of early model stage, you need people that wear different hats. And this person has to be able to see the operations, needs to know the people that we need to bring on, has to have that brain that says, you know what we really need is a software engineer. What we really need is, whatever the case may be. And then how to bring them aboard, how to onboard, how to make them part of the team, how to build the culture around what you're trying to establish. And I think there's so many of them that have lost great people because the culture is the last thing on their mind. Like I'm just trying to launch this thing. What are you talking about? Build the culture. Yeah, you still want people to work here. you want people to love coming to work here, even though they may work 50 hours a week. You want them to love being a part of it. And so I'd say when you hire those two people with a visionary, man, that's kind of your basis for really trying to launch. And if you don't have those two, man, it's going to be a struggle. You'll fill in more as you go, but those would be the first two people I'd put in place.
Colby, I appreciate you. I appreciate you because there's things that you're saying where I'm like, okay, okay. But I like to bring something, and I appreciate you bringing your experience and your expertise to the conversation. I think that like we as outliers, like there's a lot that we're trying to get done, and there's this like I appreciate what I also really appreciate is that you bring in that level of like I said that the ownership and the security of it. It's like you embrace it. You're like, all right, hey, let me give you a hug. I'm glad like more power to you. Here goes where I would go. And thank you for so thank you for bringing you and being you throughout this entire conversation. We're going to end the conversation here, but I want to do it on the three quick ones, three quick questions. The first one is like, if you have any, I call it outsights, right? Any takeaways that you want a listener, an outlier in particular, who's listening to this to walk away from. Any takeaways from you?
Man, the biggest thing is be good to your people, hire the right people, impact people. I know everybody wants results, but it's the people that deliver the results. So start developing and investing in your people.
Love it. And then, Colby, if anyone wants to continue down the journey with you, if they like for any way, shape, or form, what's the best way for them to do that?
Um, Two best ways. One is through my LinkedIn, Colby Morris, fractional COO. That I know of, I'm the only fractional COO named Colby Morris. So, or they can reach out to me, nextstepadvisors.com. That's NXT. No, there's no E in there, just NXT, nextstepadvisors.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And then the last thing, Kobe, here is if you had to leave a message for yourself, for your future self right now, a message that you wouldn't listen to for another 10 to 15 years, but it's almost as if like this is the message you feel you might need or you don't want to forget. I think that's probably it. You can't really guess where you're going to be later on. But what's a message of something like something that you know right now and all your wisdom up until this point that you don't want to forget 10, 15 years down the road?
Yeah. I'd say, I'd say that it is when it gets tough, major in the major, minor in the minors. Like the things that are going to be important will always be important. The things that are not won't be down the line. But focus on what's going to be important, whether it's now or 15 years from now. Focus on what's important. Be present.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. All right. Thank you so much for bringing your time, your experience, your expertise to this conversation. I wish you all the best in your journey. And I'm excited for all the things that come for you, B, and us all together. Right.
Well, thank you so much. I absolutely love this conversation. And man, I'd love to just chat with you anytime. Doesn't have to be for the show. I'd love to just chat with you. So.
Oh yeah, the best is yet to come. We're still on this. Yeah, we're still on this. All right. For this particular conversation, I'm going to say journey on and have a good one. All right.
All right.